It's another day and it's another dollar. I'm done with my university finals, and Overwatch 2 still sucks. The game honestly continues to get worse. Somehow the developers find it in themselves to continue to make a worse game compared to Overwatch 1. Ever since Overwatch 2 dropped, Overwatch 1 was obviously just better in comparison, significantly better. The only real thing that Overwatch 2 did better than Overwatch 1 was graphics quality. Even in that department, it really just kind of sucked. There were FPS spikes and there was just lots of lag. The anti-aliasing was just not good. So there was a lot of issues with Overwatch 2, even in the department that it was supposedly better in. But the main problem with the game so far is that it's just not fun. Compared to Overwatch 1, which was also losing a lot of steam towards the end of its life, Overwatch 2 is simply just not fun. There's a major reason why a lot of the player base that really enjoyed Overwatch 2 and actually liked it have left now, and that's because the game continues to get worse. They haven't really released any updates that have made the game better. All they've really done is just release cosmetic skins that cost an arm and a leg to buy, and they've also just released a bunch of updates that no one really wants, such as new characters that don't really do anything, or they're just too overpowered to make the game broken. But the main problem and difference between Overwatch 2 and Overwatch 1 is just how the systems of the game run. In Overwatch 1, it was a 6v6, 2 tanks, 2 DPS, 2 support versus 6. And that was honestly a very fun concept, and it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of strategies that developed from having 2 tanks on your team rather than Overwatch's 2's just 1 tank. But the big problem here is that Overwatch 2 only has 5 people per game, and so while it's filling more games because less people are required to queue and actually get a game, it's just not as fun. I mean, that's really what it boils down to, is the game is just not that fun. What a lot of the community has an issue with in regards to the existence of Overwatch 2 is the fact that it killed Overwatch 1, which was a separate game and honestly functioned different than Overwatch 2. And just like how CS2 killed CSGO, they used Overwatch 2 to completely take off Overwatch 1 and then proceed on with Overwatch 2 as like the sort of like replacement game. And that's what upset a lot of people, is because Overwatch 1 was actually well received. It was a very liked game. Even though the community was obviously very cringe and toxic, it still had a very large community and was very active as a game. Overwatch 2, on the other hand, does not have that. Overwatch 2 is an expansion to an already good game that was well received, and all it really did was just make things worse. There was a lot of FPS spiking and lag issues with the game. There was a lot of issues with actual like queuing, and really people aren't playing it anymore, so it's hard to actually find filled lobbies without waiting like 6 or 7 minutes. You can obviously use priority queue, but that doesn't really work as much. You still have to wait 2 or 3 minutes when it's supposed to be like 1. In Overwatch 1, you'd find a game damn near instantly. And so Overwatch 2 is really just kind of taken the good aspects of Overwatch 1, made them worse, and then forced it in your face and basically said, this is what you have to play now, Overwatch 1's gone. And that's what a lot of the Overwatch community is pissed about, is because they really liked Overwatch 1. It was a really successful and good game. Overwatch 2 was forced in their face, and it's honestly just like the biggest mobile game ad pay to win bullshit. Obviously it's not pay to win, I say that very loosely, but everything that they promote on that game is like $70 cosmetic skin packs that really add nothing to the game other than, oh cool, look, my Mercy's pink now. But Overwatch 2, that's all they focused on, was just cosmetic skins and not actual gameplay updates to actually make the game more fun or more enjoyable. And that's a major reason why Marvel Rivals came in and immediately picked up steam and kind of took over Overwatch's 2's standing on that department, that genre of video games, with the whole 5v5 team play game. Now, a big thing with Overwatch 2 that really also upset the community was how they directly lied pretty significantly about the game and its development state. And they really just kind of said that it was supposed to be like a replacement for Overwatch 1, which was not well received, and yet they still pushed it and forced it out. And ever since that Overwatch 2 has released, it's been mostly a cash grab rather than like an actual fun game that people enjoy playing. The developers of the game also chose to unionize for some reason, which doesn't really make sense to me why they're unionizing, because if they put as much time as they put into developing Overwatch 1 and making Overwatch 1 an enjoyable game to play into Overwatch 2, rather than bitching about unionizing for some reason to protect their interests, Overwatch 2 could and does have the potential to be a good game. They just aren't putting enough time and effort into actually making it a good game. They refuse to listen to the community on what they want for the game. They refuse to listen to the people that actually play the game, are in the trenches fighting their stupid little 5v5 battles and competitive, losing rank and bitching about it on Reddit. They refuse to listen to what they want and their opinions. Instead, they're focusing on things that really do not matter and trying to make as much money as possible. And that's what it boils down to. These $70 cosmetic packs for like K-pop groups, simply money driven. It's 100% oriented towards making more money and not delivering a good game that people enjoy playing. And that's a major reason people don't like Overwatch 2 compared to Overwatch 1. Overwatch 1 was made with love. People actually really enjoyed it because they actually listened to their community and made updates to the game according to what the community community and the pro scene of their game was asking for. Overwatch 2 completely neglects that. They refuse to listen to their community. The pro side of the game is really just kind of neglected as well. They're more interested on making more money. Now, this brings into question Blizzard.net and that horrific company's practices. Why did their World of Warcraft team unionize, and why is their Overwatch 2 developer team unionizing now? It's saying that they're unionizing in all departments as well. They have engineering, they have art design, everyone at that corporation working on Overwatch 2, basically, that is reporting to someone above them has unionized, which is like over 200 or something employees. And the World of Warcraft team also unionized last July, if I remember correctly. So why are the development teams of these video games unionizing actively? What is Blizzard doing on the inside that's causing their developers to unionize? And will this actually mean the Overwatch 2 gets the love and the support that it needs to actually be a good game? I'm going to say probably not. And I know that sucks to say, and I know a lot of people might be bummed to hear that, but it's definitely probably not going to happen. I say definitely probably it's not going to happen. The major reason for the union was likely due to the layoffs that occurred in 2024. There were significant layoffs at Blizzard on the Overwatch team, which was again a direct result of the fact that Overwatch 2 sucks and no one enjoys playing it, and the fact that Marvel Rivals kind of came in and just immediately took steam and was considered a much better game by most of the gaming community. So that is probably a major reason why they unionized. Also, probably just the fact that management at Overwatch does not care where their game goes. They're interested on literally wringing out as much profit as they can, like picking up, shaking out the pennies out of your pockets. They just want you to bleed your wallet into the game, into useless things that don't really matter, like cosmetics, and that's all the management has been focused on for the entire life of this game. On the other hand, the developers probably want the game to be successful. I mean, this is their project. This is the thing that they've poured hours and minutes and a lot of time of their work into, and it's being directly neglected by the company that oversees it because they're trying to make as much money as possible. So I actually don't blame the developers for unionizing. It makes sense, and considering the layoffs because their game sucks and they had to lay off people because it wasn't bringing enough money, I totally understand why they're unionizing. What I don't understand, though, is why they're more focused on that rather than actually listening to the community and developing a better game. Overwatch 1 was like a staple to the late 2010s video game network. The whole genre of video games has honestly been on a significant decline since really COVID happened, but Overwatch 1 was one of those games that people kept coming back to, and it was very popular. It was a very competitive game to the likes of like Rocket League, CS, Rainbow Six Siege, and it was one of those very popular games that a lot of people played. Overwatch 2 has completely killed that, and it's because the difference in attitude towards developing the video game from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2 has resulted in a game that's not cared about and is just a money grab. And so the developers probably see that, and they're probably thinking, a lot of them probably were on the Overwatch 1 project as well, and thinking, what went wrong with our game? This is something that we spent a lot of our time developing, and it was a very good game. What went wrong? And they're seeing that it's because the management that oversees it, which is Blizzard, is turning the game into a cash grab and isn't really cared in the future of the game outside of just milking everyone for as much money as they possibly can. Now, another thing that they promised when they were developing Overwatch 2 that some people are actually excited for was player versus environment, PvE. Now, you can go into the reviews and 99% of it's just going to be weird people fantasizing about having sex with the Overwatch 2 characters. But other than that, if you can cycle through those and find an actually like good review that's criticizing or saying something good about the game, you'll find that a lot of the things that they promised when they were making Overwatch 2 when Overwatch 1 was still out, they didn't deliver on. So the player versus environment was one of those big things that they just refused to deliver on, and they actually made it to where you have to pay to play it rather than just having it included in the game as they originally promised. The game had no single player that was promised. There was no skills or leveling tree as they had promised. There was no co-op missions as they promised. The multiplayer was reduced from 6v6 to 5v5 as I previously mentioned, and 90% of the content that they did add from Overwatch 1 to Overwatch 2 was simply cosmetic. There was no gameplay change outside of the 6v6 to 5v5. So it locks a lot of new characters behind battle passes as well. This was a major issue in the original, like the starting point of Overwatch 2. That's become better now. They've allowed all the characters actually to be accessible after you play a certain amount, to where you can play new characters and you don't have to sit and grind to unlock them. But a major concern was that Overwatch 1 brought a fair gameplay experience to where everyone that played in the 5v5 could pick a character and have access to all the characters and wouldn't need to buy a new character from the battle pass or grind for a new character like you do in like Rainbow Six Siege when you want to unlock a new character or agent. It took away that fair gameplay aspect that people really dug about Overwatch 1 1 basically locked it behind a paywall to try and extort more money out of you. The icing on the cake, the thing that really rubbed people wrong, was all these things that they promised and they said that they would release with the game for free. So if you bought Overwatch 1 when they dropped Overwatch 2, they would release it for free and it'd be a part of the Overwatch 2, and you'd have access to it. After they basically said, yeah, we lied to you about that, you're not getting it, they released a half completed version like 3 weeks after Overwatch 2 launched, and it was behind a $15 DLC. Now, if you watch my first video on DLCs, the first video I made on this YouTube channel, you'll know my opinion on DLCs and what video game companies are doing to essentially lock core component gameplay behind DLCs and how it's just really bullshit. Overwatch 2 did this exact thing. Everything that they promised would be free in the game and they promised to deliver to the game when they switched from Overwatch 1 to 2, they locked behind a $15 DLC, which pissed off a lot of people and was a major reason why Overwatch 2 in like the first 3 weeks immediately saw a decline in players compared to Overwatch 1. Not to mention how they just completely took Overwatch 1 off the market. They completely killed the game. You can't play Overwatch 1 anymore. It's just Overwatch 2. But the fact that they're locking key component gameplay that was in Overwatch 1, or that they promised would be free for Overwatch 2 behind a DLC, just goes to show Blizzard only gives a fuck about money. They really don't care whatsoever about how Overwatch 2 is doing as a game. In comparison to Marvel Rivals, which did give a fuck and as a reason was a very successful game, Overwatch 2 gives no shits, and that's why they literally are like locking shit behind $15 DLCs that they promised would be free for you. Not only that, but then they said that they were developing it for 6 months prior to actually releasing it as a DLC. Obviously, we're saying that it'd be free, and then they locked it behind a DLC. I completely understand why Overwatch 2 is dying. It's a dog shit game that's really not fun. The developers don't care and are more focused on unionizing and random issues that really don't affect the gameplay population at all. So my biggest thing here is Overwatch 2 is a dog shit game. It's really not a good game at all compared to Overwatch 1 at least. The developers are more focused on unionizing and fighting their own management rather than delivering a game that people want to play. And as a result, you see Overwatch 2's quality just significantly decreasing as more and more time goes on. Less things are being introduced. There's not really any significant updates outside of cosmetic changes now. So all the game really is just like this floating island with like 30,000 active players just waiting to die. The developers don't give a shit about it. The management hasn't given a shit about it. They've only cared about the money. And now the player base, if they aren't making like AI porn of the characters in the video game, they're starting to leave it and quit, and it's just a dog shit game. I just wanted to comment on the fact that Overwatch 2 is one of the worst games of the 21st century. They really fumbled the bag with this one. It's just terrible, but thank you.